everybody. Welcome to the first episode of our podcast. I'm King At. I'm from the LAU, or Leeds University, and today I've got with me Celeste from the Christian Union as the de facto president.
Hello.
So, could you introduce yourself? Obviously, this is the first episode, and people tuning in might not exactly know who you are.
Yeah, okay, so I'm Celeste Durin Davis, and I am a fine arts student at Leeds Art University, and I'm president of the Christian Union at my university.
So, could you tell us, Celeste, what exactly is the Christian Union?
Like, Christian Union is just a place where we gather every week. Like, we catch up with each other and we talk about the Bible, we go through Bible studies together, and yeah, it's just a chill time for everyone.
Yeah, and how's your experience been with it? When did you first join the Christian Union?
Well, I joined in my first year, which was 2 years ago now, so in 2018, that's when I joined, in September.
And how's it been so far? How are you finding it?
Well, I mean, I'm still here, so I love it. I love it because it's always just been, a chill get together for all of us, and sometimes we go out for meals and like we do activities as well as like going through the Bible together. It's so nice to have that community where we can all just chill out together.
Yeah, I can also agree because I also joined the Christian Union when I was a first year, and it's one of the few things that pretty much has kept me sane throughout the university. Like you
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
just chatting with each other, finding someone in common, and especially someone to talk to. It's really awkward if you're a fresher in uni and you just do not know what to do or who to form a friends group with.
Yeah, definitely.
So with the Christian Union, of course, as as the name suspect, what's been your experience with Christianity and um, how's it been?
Uh, well, I guess it's like as everyone else is like, it's been up and down throughout the years. Like I was first introduced into like Christianity properly, I guess, by my primary school, which is a COV primary school. And then I decided I wanted to get christened when I was about 6 or 7. And then my mum converted to Christianity, but I can't remember how old I was at the time. And then, like, since then, like, me and my mum, we've been going to church, and then as my siblings were born, we would start going to church together and stuff like that. But yeah, like everyone else, it's just, some lower years where we didn't go to church, and then sometimes we would, and, it just kind of goes up and down throughout life.
It's a very different experience to what I've had because I'm from Hong Kong. Coming here into the UK, it's even the whole idea of going into an arts uni. It's all very foreign to me, especially since I come from somewhere where it's not exactly well known
Yeah, yeah.
in terms of in depth. Yeah. So for me, on my end, my dad's a pastor and a really big part of our church, and so what I always was brought up to it, you know, he was because he's the head of the church. We have to always follow him. So he's like,
Yeah.
we're waking up every day. We go to church. We have to do devotions. I'm throwing you into a Christian school. Just start from
Yeah,
the
so like a lot of your life it didn't feel like it was your choice, whereas like I had like to me at least it was a choice. Like I didn't really think that much about it when I was a kid, but like I heard the stories, I was like, oh my gosh, this, Jesus guy, he loves me so much. I love him too. But that's just because, I'm a child, but you can see why Jesus says you should follow me like children follow me.
Yeah. Did you have? I suppose your reception was always positive.
What do you mean by reception?
Well, I mean, like obviously, because grew up with these stories, and you grow up as a kid and a teenager. How do you think when you were in your teenage years did you have that same sort of fascination or sort of positivity evolving it?
Yeah, like it's hard to explain because, like, obviously Christianity in the UK is like it's still technically the state religion, but it's not enforced. Um, so it's like, oh yeah, everyone kind of knows about Christianity, but like when I was growing up, obviously there's still a lot of atheist people out there and agnostic people out there, and some parents like don't want to introduce their children to religion at all. So I like when I would tell my friends, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, like I got christened, and that was my choice." And they were like, "Oh really? Just got christened when I was a baby, but I didn't think about it as like, oh, I'm a Christian now." It's just like so like a lot of people would say they're Christian when they were kids, but they didn't really think about it.
Yeah, I suppose the same thing as well, because obviously when you spend all your time in a Christian school being told to go to church every single week, for me it
Yeah.
was kind of so and so, it's that part of your life where you can sort of, it's there in your head, but I didn't really pay much attention to it until I turned 15. I was like, you know what, maybe there is some merit to this, and that's what led me to officially being Christian. I don't remember actually being christened, but I do remember I got baptized like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I suppose to come in different worlds as well, because I wasn't quite aware that the UK had a de facto state religion. I don't know
Yeah.
that.
So basically, like in the UK, the Queen is what is called like Defender of the Faith, which technically means that the UK is a Christian country. Yeah.
I mean, Defender of the Faith. That's really good name.
Yeah, it's a badass title for it, indeed. And yeah, the
Could you
Queen is
imagine?
this little fragile lady now. It's hard to think of her as this badass defender of the faith sort of character.
Old lady by morning, caped crusader by night.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, but I don't know. Hong Kong doesn't really have a state religion. I mean, we have a lot of, well, what you'd say, pagan and folk religions and stuff. But there's always it's a huge mix, obviously,
Yeah, and
because
like I guess most of the time, from what I know, it's like it's not exactly like you believe it. It's more like, oh, you just do it like traditional, like, oh yeah, we just do. We like in Japan, like they go to the Shinto shrines, but they don't believe in it necessarily. They just go, oh well, well might as well, sort of thing.
yeah. Do you have this situation in the UK where sometimes parents who might not be religious send them to religious schools because they think, oh, it makes you a good person?
I don't really think that sort of thing happens. Well, I don't know. I think mainly it's just Christian parents like wanting to send their kids to Christian schools. But most of the time, to be honest, there are so many Christian like primary schools, like they're called like Church of England primary schools, that you don't actually have a lot of choice. Like that are not a lot of uh, secular schools in the UK. It's only when you go to high school that it's not a religious school.
So I guess that means pretty much everyone has had dipped their feet in at one point or
Yeah,
another, regardless if they were
yeah.
willing to, of course.
Yeah, because I knew some people growing up that hated like religion, Christianity, and everything. And they were like, well, my parents didn't want to send me to this school, but, they would always tell me, oh, God's not real, and Jesus isn't real, and stuff like that. Which is always like, so it's like, it's always been like a weird, like, battle, I guess, but like, they wouldn't offend me by it or anything. It's just, normal.
Suppose we can, I guess, yeah, hearing from what you said, there's a huge, I guess, sort of like an Eastern and Western outlook on things like religion and the whole concept of faith and stuff.
Yeah. Like yeah, it's a weird mix. Like I don't think, to be fair, um, the actual power that these primary schools now have is so little when it comes to like trying to enforce Christianity as like, oh yeah, you must be like. When I grew up, the only like Christian things we would do is we would do an Easter service, a harvest service at the church, and then we would do a nativity, and we would sing hymns in the morning, in assembly time. But most of us didn't even think of it as like Christian stuff to do. It's just like, oh, I mean, it was just fun, to do those sorts of things, to like sing and act and recite lines for plays and stuff. I always enjoyed it, I think, but like, I don't know. I think some kids didn't like it, but I've always like enjoyed going to school, so.
I mean, that's a really good thing, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a good thing coming to school and education, learning stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it does. Obviously, there are the dangers where people might grow up. They have all sorts of misconceptions. In my case, like even though my dad still made it very clear that I had to go to church every week, had to still commit to a religious school, I can understand why some people might grow up and have a very skewed misconception of what Christianity is like.
Yeah, yeah. So like a lot of it here is like secular Christianity as well. So like a lot of people will just go to the Christmas service and they will just go to Easter service, and that'll be it. Like they won't really be that interested in doing other things with the church.
I've never really heard of the concept of secular Christianity.
Yeah, so it's you. I mean, there's no other way of me to like phrase this, but you know how during the Holocaust, people who were just born into Judaism by their lineage, they were considered Jews even though they didn't practice it, like or like even like religiously consider themselves Jewish, but they were just had hereditary Judaism. Like it's the same sort of thing here, like because it's so ingrained into our culture, like Christianity, but not for like not for religious reasons, just because they like going.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing as well, and I think on secular Christianity, that definitely is some very, I guess, yeah, like you said, with the fact that how technically Christianity is sort of England's state religion. If I get that
Yeah.
right, I guess then people grow up saying, "Oh, it's just your run-of-the-mill custom that everyone does."
Yeah.
There's still many things out there, and people still have very huge misconceptions. Like for my end, I did not realize for a long time as well that the whole difference in doctrine and how sometimes people can be quite wacky. I think there was one time where I was walking down the street and obviously I just saw a bunch of people handing out books like, "Oh hey, learn about Jesus," and I was like, "Oh hey, I believe in this sort of stuff," and I took the book and it took me about 5 minutes when I walked away and I was like, "Hang on a minute, no, those are Jehovah's Witnesses."
Yeah, like that's the thing is that a lot of people don't like believing in Christianity is because of the amount of different interpretations that there is.
This is tricky as well because obviously on a surface level, I think I speak for myself. On a surface level, I didn't realize like, oh, what's the difference between like Catholics and Protestants, and what separates us from like different types of denominations. It's only when you get into nitty gritty when you realize, oh wait a minute, there's a lot of different things
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Like different churches put emphasis on different parts of the service. So like from what I know in the Baptist church, like they don't like any use of drugs. So like the big stereotype in the UK is that Baptist churches just live off tea and biscuits, because they do communion, but they do it with non-alcoholic wine.
I mean, it does sound tasty, though.
Yeah, yeah, it's just as good, obviously, and like basically the the message is the same, but they just do things slightly differently.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I mean, but have you heard that? I think when I grew up, I've always heard the stereotype, for Christians, like, oh, stay at home all day, read the Bible, do absolutely nothing, get no fun whatsoever.
I think yeah, the no fun thing still applies. Yeah, like people always like, oh, so do you like going out? Then I'm like, yeah. Like I'm still human. I still enjoy things that most other people like to do. So yeah, I think like most people think like Christians can't have fun, but then it only takes them to know a Christian to realize that they're just normal people.
I think on my end, usually when it comes to sort of the no fun stuff, I think probably my experience has mostly been when people ask, oh, do you not go out as much, or do you not go anywhere, or not have fun? I'll be I suppose that question has always struck me. You know, like why people think Christian's kind of fun. Cause I think even when I was still obviously new to Christianity, I was still like, I want to go out, have a nice dinner with my friends, maybe
Yeah.
play soccer in the park.
Yeah. Yeah. Like our childhoods would definitely be very similar. Maybe they just didn't go to, a Bible camp every summer. Although they missed out.
I think my school had us go through a Bible camp each fall, and that was really
Oh
interesting.
my gosh. I loved going to I used to be a part of this youth group called Youth United, and oh my we would go to this place called Bonsall every year, and we would always like play games and worship together, and oh, I just have so many good memories from doing like Bible camps like that. Like they were so much fun.
Did you ever get into something quite insane in terms of the Bible stuff? Because we always hear those stories. Kids grow up, they're like, oh, my parents forced me to like go to this school where there's all like uh, nuns and stuff, and or I had to go to this Bible camp and wasn't allowed to leave. We always hear those insane stories. Especially the ones that always hit the headlines.
No, I don't think we did anything crazy. Like we would literally just play games and read the Bible, worship. And then one year we went to Alton Towers and like we'd always go on like I feel like it's very Christian Bible camp or retreat or whatever. Like if you go on a massive hike. I feel like that happens every time. but
That's way too true. That's way too
but
true.
I love it nonetheless. So I think that's probably where my love of walking has come from. Just because I'm like, oh, I used to do this when I was a kid, but I've always loved it.
Bible camp's always a route where you want to go on a walk, we all go on a
Yeah,
walk.
yeah. I remember one time we we wrote like things on post-it notes, and then we like attached them to balloons, and then we let them go as like to let go of our shame or whatever. It was really nice.
Yeah, I think I remember a lot of that as well, especially because when we did our Bible camps and stuff, we often did it the whole like in America, my school was an American school, so we had like the whole year 9 to year 12 was called high school, and so when we went to Bible camps, we went as an entire high school.
Nice. That is so cool though, because whenever I went to Bible camp, it was literally just a small little youth group, and the youth group was maybe like up to 20, like probably less than 20 kids. That's so cool that you had like hundreds and hundreds of students going on these camps with you.
Yeah, and it's funny as well because obviously, when the cabins go around and we go to like it's less more about the camping aspect and more of like also spending time with your friends and your classmates, making new people. Because obviously, when you're in the Bible camps, and they always have to like put people in the cabins. I think I remembered. So because my last name was like YU, I always got put in
Oh, you got put
for
in the
some reason
last
with the
one?
really well, I got to go put in with the really really older kids. There was one time where I was just in the camp, right, and I was just like two people who were like 2 grades above me. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna go to my bedroom sleep, and because I was just tired, and they spent the whole day, the whole night actually, sort of. I don't remember what the details, but they just started screaming and
Oh
stuff,
my
and eventually
god.
at one point, a chaperone came in, and they're like, he's like banging the door, he's screaming like, "What's going on?" And they were like, "There's a centipede on like the wall," and
Oh.
but all I remember was that the chaperone was like, "Guys, it's just a bug. King Yat's sleeping in the door next to you, and he hasn't even cared if there's a bug crawling on him," which is not true. Which is not true in the slightest. But yeah. So I guess the whole outlook on Christianity now in the UK is more of it's a very culture
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, definitely.
Mm.
So like it's ingrained into culture, but most people don't take it too seriously. So, but like, and then, well, like they understand what Christianity is, which is great when you try and go, oh yeah, like I'm Christian. They're like, oh right, okay, yeah, yeah, I know what that means. It's not like saying, oh, like because the minority like if you say oh I'm Sikh, they're like oh right, like what does that mean, like they get like so much more confused.
Would interested also be a good word?
I yeah,
Because
yeah. They would definitely be interested, but I feel like when you say, "Oh, I'm Christian," they're like, "Oh, I know what that is," and they just stop the conversation.
Uh, so usually when it comes to Hong Kong, Christianity is one of the very few things that are sort of mingled because it's a very um, atheistic, it's a secular place in Hong Kong. It's a mix, like obviously you still have the old, I would say Buddhist and Taoist temples that I could see when I'm walking to school, um, but even when it comes to Christians, you don't really see in Hong Kong these big churches and cathedrals that you see in the UK. Which, by the way, I have to admit they are very very beautiful.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's beautiful, yeah. But I think whenever my church or when I had my youth groups as well, they were doing no more than just like a small block in a building. You just walked in and you didn't realize it was a building until you or a church gathering until you literally walk through the door and there's like a sign that said, "Hey, welcome to blank church."
Oh, nice.
So it's a very, I guess it's very
Yeah,
small
like
because
very
obviously,
independent. Like I feel like it could be like on the street with loads of little tiny shops, and then there's like just a little church like in the corner or something.
yeah. So usually when we go out and say, "Oh, hey, I'm a Christian," they're like, "Oh, I've heard of it a little bit. I'm not quite clear on that." Because the mindset in Hong Kong is usually it's very secular and also a lot of you don't really focus more on spiritual stuff. It's a lot more on we're just workaholics. We tend to focus
Yeah,
on
yeah.
focusing on things that we see,
Or lots of
like how much.
salary men.
Yeah, a lot of businessmen, lawyers, doctors, and stuff. It's interesting because I remember, having a conversation with someone, and I think it was a Korean who sort of was like, she worked in the medical field, and she herself found it interesting that a lot of medical staff and people working there are also Christian or Catholic, and she said how it's interesting because you think these things conflict,
Mm.
and as I understand it, people are like, hey, why, the whole concept of the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
and um, angels and stuff. To be fair, I think as when you, I think watching things like horror movies and stuff doesn't really help to make the impression of what the supernatural is.
Yeah, yeah. Like I feel like Christians enjoy watching those shows like that though, because like I know my parents they love watching like the show Supernatural, and they love watching Grimm and all of the other like like TV shows that like they have tie-ins with Christians like scripture in like terms of what uh, creatures or angels or diseases, stuff like that are in it.
So it's sort of like, I get that reference.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
someone says a character, But, well, I mean, yeah, like you said, obviously, there's different routes everywhere, but I feel like it'd be quite foolish to assume everyone's sort of worldview on a certain idea remains the same throughout their entire lives. Like, how has your faith, is that a better word? How has your faith evolved over the course of your life?
Yeah, I mean, like I really believed it when I was small. I really did, and like I guess like it's always been quite strong, but like my mum and a lot of people that my mum know, they have like gifts from God, which is so like to explain it, like my mum she sees pictures from God, and so do some of her friends, and then um one guy I know um he gets prophecy, and but I mean obviously I know that these are like super crazy gifts to have, and normally most of the time people don't get these gifts, or like the gift of tongues and stuff like that. So a lot of the time I get like a really big FOMO from all of these like amazing Christians around me. I always felt like I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like I believe in you, like what what am I not doing right? And like, am I not the good enough Christian to have these gifts? But
It's like, you feel shame when you're like, you obviously, I think even when it comes, you're sitting in church, you hear all those testimonies, and you're like, am I missing out on
Yeah,
something? Like,
yeah.
what?
So people have these like crazy, crazy like changes in like their faith and stuff, and I'm just there like, well, I kind of grew up with it, I guess. But like, um, I think like when everyone's a teenager, they kind of go a bit like, because hormones are racing through your body and everything's changing and it's getting all a bit confusing. So like when I was 17 and 16, like I started sixth form, and like it was just, I mean, like I had just finished my GCSEs and my grandma had just died, and I was just like I felt so rushed because like I didn't. I mean, I went to the funeral and everything like that you were supposed to do, but I mean, I loved my grandma, but it was just like I didn't really. I always felt like after she died, like I didn't make the most of that relationship that I could have had with her. Because like I always joked, I was like, oh, she always buys me clothes too small, and like uh, she always bought me like crazily girly things. I was like, oh, I'm not really into flowers or anything like that. And then like it took me a long time to like forgive myself for I guess like not being the granddaughter she really wanted me to be. You know what I mean? But like yeah, and this is like there's just a lot of stuff happening, I guess, when you like I was doing GCSEs and then like I still had to do my GCSEs. I couldn't just go, "Oh, I'm gonna skip this year, lads," and then just quit. Like I couldn't just quit. So I I finished my GCSEs and then I had the weirdest summer ever after that because obviously I had like the funeral and then my 16th birthday, which was on my results day, which was nice.
That's a lot of things to happen all at
Yeah, it
once.
was really depressing. And so like I spent my 16th birthday alone, and no I really thought that I wouldn't be spending it alone because normally, I mean, like it's in the summer holidays. So I'm used to not having many people over because a lot of people are on family holidays. So I was expecting it. But that year I really thought more of my friends would be around because obviously everyone had to be back for the results day, but I didn't consider the fact that obviously they would be out celebrating with their families. So, like, I had a really strange, like, birthday week, basically, is what it turned out to be, because, like, a few friends, like, came over, and, like, it was that weird period where people from my high school were like, well, I don't have to talk to you anymore because we're not in the same school. So, like, loads of people were ghosting me. It was just a really weird summer, and I didn't know, like, who to rely on or who to talk to. And so then, like, the I started a new school, and I was like, oh yeah, this is so good. I love sixth form. I love all of these new people I'm meeting. I always feel like when you first meet new people, it's so easy to get along with them, but then trying to maintain that friendship or relationship is so much harder. But like so, yeah, I think just the pressure of sixth form like got to me, and I just became really really like depressed and sad, and like I really was starting to feel like the FOMO again of like not being a good enough Christian. Like, why aren't I doing all of these amazing Christian things? And I was really confused with the whole concept of destiny and fate. And I was like, am I supposed to believe in this or not? Am I supposed to feel this bad? Why do I feel like this? It was just it was really confusing for me. And I didn't have a good run with relationships either. I went to an all girls school, and I was dating a boy from an all boys school, which was a grammar, and he was really, yeah. I mean, the girls mostly were really, really lovely, and it wasn't really an issue, but it's just more of the fact that after a while, like, it just became so terrifying. And girls love to spread rumors. But, like, we don't necessarily fight, but we spread crazy rumors, I feel. And so, like, other people were getting in and out of relationships, and it would mess up with their friendship groups at school. So by the end of 2 years, no one liked each other.
Oh,
So yeah, and just like collectively as a sixth form, we had really bad mental health.
that's a lot of things to take in, especially when you're at that
Yeah,
age.
definitely. I
Yeah.
definitely felt like I was like, there's too much going on, and even like it wasn't like one of those times where, oh, well, I'm fine. I think I'm a good person. Like, no, that was the year I realized I was like, yeah, I'm really not a perfect person, and I do bad things because I lost a lot of friends that those within those 2 years as well, because I would just do things out of like instinct or human like hatred, I guess, and I just wouldn't think about my actions having consequences. And yeah, I just slowly lost my friends. And then after the 2 years, like, we forgave each other, which was really, really nice. But oh, it was so tense when we finished sixth form because not only did we have like relationship stress, we had exam stress. It wasn't the best.
Oh,
It really wasn't a great
that doesn't
atmosphere.
sound.
But yeah, one of my friends from that group, who I had actually gone to primary school with, she got married that year and she invited the friendship group back together. And it was just so nice because we were like, hey, look, we can be nice to each other and we can like enjoy each other's company like before, like in first year of sixth form. Like, why did we even hate each other that much? Like, what was going through our bodies that made us these horrible people? So yeah, I'm so glad like we got the chance to really reconcile with each other.
That's a really good thing to hear, though, because I think my similar view as well. I mean, the whole teenagers when they grow up, when I say like it's universal. We just tend to experience a lot of things, and I think for mine it's just, I think like you said, I had a very different upbringing because there were all things that were going on even as a kid, but I was bullied quite intensely. There were multiple things that were involved in the whole process, but mostly was involved. Like I had a lot of things going on for my health. There were a lot of problems with how I just interacted with classmates. So I was still in the mindset where I just made a lot of enemies,
Yeah, yeah.
and none of them were in a very good way. And um, what ended up happening was I never really got to basically make a lot of friends until I was like, it's kind of sad because like it only happened after I was a Christian, because um, I feel like when I feel like as a kid, eventually you get to a point where it's like there's not really much to really poke fun at somebody, so you just end up doing your own thing or just ignoring someone else and moving on with your life. But for me, it became an issue of I was all alone, but for everyone else, they were also alone, and so what you ended up with was just a lot of mess. And I feel like it was kind of sad from my end because it was only until year 12 where I noticed that everyone had kind of basically that we'd all become Christians and try to make up with each other, but we never really got to until, like I said, we had to do our annual Bible retreat camp, and it was kind of it was very, I would say, crazy because it was like that last night where we all were just put into one room together. Like, I think I could remember who it was, and obviously, when you're that age, people just start chatting. It's late at night, not really much you can do. You don't want to go to sleep, so you just ramble around and talk.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You don't have a lot of choice. You either are in a noisy room or a quiet room.
yeah, and I think what actually happened was a friend of ours had actually was gonna be in our share our cabin, but he wasn't there the whole day, so um, we started just asking him, like, oh, what happened to him? And he sort of told us later on over a phone call, that, hey, yeah, I can't stay. I'm leaving the Bible retreat because my dad's just got terminal cancer. And so it wasn't, and that was an instigation, or kind of was like, listen, guys, let's just all pray together for him. You know, I feel like, it's this thing you do using the Bible retreat, but it was that first time I felt as if, oh, everyone in that room actually meant it. And it's a weird thing to say because obviously we all realized it, and I think by the end of like the camp, we sort of had to like, we're like, look, we've all done really, really stupid things.
Yeah.
Um, let's, can we just be friends again?
Yeah, like you just realize, I feel like you just get to a point where you've just been nagging at each other's necks for ages and you just realize this is so stupid. Why are we still doing this? Let's just forget it, you know?
It's like, why are we still talking about these
Yeah,
things,
like this happened years ago or whatever, and it's just like I feel like as humans, like it's so tiring to be angry at someone. And it's so much easier to be nice to them.
Yeah, and there's so much. I think that I think those 3 nights kind of define how I sort of went on from life afterwards. Because, unfortunately, the thing now, I still haven't been in contact with that same group, but it still was a really good thing to at least set. I think that was the interest where I was like, oh, maybe there is a, there is God out there, and He does look out for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Even though whether or not I want it or not.
yeah, yeah. I always feel like God has directed me on the right path. Like, you don't ever really realize it at the time, but when you look back at your life, you realize, oh, so I was supposed to go through that because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten tired of hating those people. And even though I was such a bad person during that time, now I know I was a bad person. And God has given me the power to see that in myself and the chance to reflect and to better myself as a person.
Yeah, it's God thoughts, and you never really know until you look back and you see, oh, you know, I feel like now, especially in this scenario, in like obviously now we have the whole pandemic.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stress as well, and even when it started kicking out, it took me for a while, to be like to recognize, oh wait, this is happening. I have to be aware of everything, and there's so many things that happen nowadays, and I have a hard time processing everything.
Yeah.
I feel like when you reach the point, I wouldn't say you sort of get used to it, but you sort of have that knowledge in the back of your head, right? You're like, oh, I know God's looking out for me.
Yeah.
There's always everything's gonna be okay. You know, I think that's what got me through this pandemic of all things.
Yeah. And it's always like a nice reminder to have this thing is like, it's not humans that are in control, it's God. And just like trying to remind yourself of that when you're feeling really lost and like overwhelmed. So like God knows me, He knows what I can handle, and I know God is in control of the situation.
Is it a good lesson that you feel like has helped you throughout uni life as well?
Yeah, definitely. Because like say you apply for something and it just doesn't go your way. Like in first year I was just applying for jobs all the time. Like, well, I say all the time, like I'd apply for a job like once every few weeks or something like that. And I I would always get so sad or like depressed because they would just say no. Or they would just never get back to me, and it was just like, okay, maybe I'm just not supposed to have a job in first year. But then in second year I got a job, and you know, I'm really I'm really happy that I have the job I'd have.
The stability, that belief of, oh, you can go through this because someone's got your back.
Yeah. And like it's just important, like 'cause God can just teach you. It's important to persevere and not give up. But sometimes some things aren't right for you, and sometimes you just gotta let it go.
I think it's something I have to work with, and especially one thing that I have gotten to learn over the years is that sometimes it's okay, just to be like, hey, I have no idea what to do, and I absolutely need
Yeah,
help.
definitely. Definitely. Like the moment you admit that you need help, you realize how strong you are as a person.
Yeah, especially for when it was my when you know, especially in Asian family, it's hard to sort of understand, and we rarely get the time to thoroughly look into ourselves and think, oh, well, maybe I should do this, or hey, maybe I should talk to someone how I feel. I think I can say as from my experience, I've never really had that luxury. So what I often do, the fact that when I became Christian, God looks at me as like, hey, listen, you're okay. I'm gonna look
Yeah,
after you. It's a very comforting
yeah.
feeling.
I mean, I guess we have that to some extent, but maybe it's just different. Um, like, we'd always been encouraged to tell people how we feel, like when you're kids and stuff, but, you know, it just becomes that thing where it's like, well, but I don't want to, like, inconvenience them or make it a burden for them. I think like sometimes I still feel like that. I'm like, oh, I can't just keep telling these things about myself to this person because they'll get sad. And I don't want to make my sadness their sadness.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we all share that doubt of, oh, am I bothering someone? Am I being a
Yeah.
burden?
And I mean, you have that like really famous English phrase of, like keep calm and carry on from World War II. So it's just like, yeah, we know we're in a terrible place right now because the world is literally being bombed. But, you just got to keep your head high. Which obviously worked for that time period because you're not going to get anything done if you just cry about your house being blown apart.
I mean, yeah, that's quite an extreme. That's You're not wrong. Yeah, you're definitely not wrong.
Yeah.
Um, I think no one. I think it takes a lot of. I think it takes a lot of mental strength for you to sort of think, oh, I can do this, or there's no way I can get out of it. It's just that energy that's involved, and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I think a
I
lot
feel like
of
that is
English
important.
culture is like, yeah, okay, you feel sad right now, and that's okay. Like, or at least now it's definitely like this. But you still have to live your life, and you still have to get out of bed and go to work. And sometimes that's really hard for people because when you're an adult, you have lots of responsibilities, and like it will only get more as you get older, basically, from what I can work out. And so, like, that's when it becomes a problem because, like, when you realize that your mood is affecting your work life and you're starting to let other people down, then it's just like a downward spiral from there.
How do you think this, like that mentality of, sad but we can get over it? How do you feel that sort of transit over to what's going on right now? Because obviously, even with uni still starting, we are still going through a lot of the pandemic, and right now, like just Friday night was it,
Yeah.
where we literally had to start another round of lockdown restrictions.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's lockdown restrictions, but it's not like another lockdown like it was in March. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think it's weird to say, but like I'm used to this now. Like I'm used to this way of living now. And I think it would just be really strange to go back to normal just like that.
I mean, how would you feel about it if someone is suddenly like, let's say, 2, 3 weeks later, it's like everyone just goes, "Hey, surprise! The pandemic's over. We can all go back out again." How weird do you think that's gonna
I
get?
think it'd be so, so strange. I think, like, a thing like that could never just snap back. But if it did, it would be like, really? I think we just wouldn't believe it, and we'd still, like, take measures anyway. But then, obviously it's a mix at the moment anyway, because some people are just so tired of the restrictions that they're not even doing them anymore.
Oh, we go through a mindset of either
Yeah.
it's we just don't care, or it's we get really, really stressed out to the point where
Yeah, yeah. Like
I don't
some
know.
people are either like they're like, well, okay. Like I feel like I'm just like I can deal with this. I mean, yeah, it's annoying and yeah, it's inconvenient, but I know that at some point it will have to get better.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and at some point this will all be over. And it's just important to remind yourself about that. That I feel like I'm in between the two of like wearing a hazmat suit and just being really chilled out all the time.
I mean, it helps also as well. I feel like from my end as well, when it goes through the whole, we had to go through all the lockdown and everything. Eventually, we reach a point where you realize, there's only so much I can really control,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I'm not, I'm not the best when it comes to controlling myself and handling
Yeah.
myself. What do you think is the best route for you when dealing with all the chaos of, oh, I don't know what to do next, or how am I going to survive the next, whatever happens after, in the next 2 months? Do you
I
think?
don't know. I just wing it. I guess like I don't like well, this is just something that my boyfriend does. Is like I am like an obsessive planner, but like I I when it comes to like major life decisions, I'm like, yeah, I guess okay, like I want to do this, but like I'm still not set in stone about some things. And then like my boyfriend has a very relaxed attitude to life and he really just like takes things as it comes, which is so much easier. I think because you're not like anxious really about the future and stuff as much maybe. Um but yeah, I think during a time where things are just so out of control, I think you just really have to wing it.
Hmm.
And you just have to see where life takes you at that point.
Yeah, understandable. I think of mine as well. I've got to learn to plan things as well because we as humans tend to like plan a lot of things and we think, oh, as long as everything's in control, we can do anything. And I think the past couple months have shown us, yeah, that's not entirely
Yeah,
true.
yeah, definitely. And sometimes, like, I find with creative people, normally problems mean you have to find solutions. And your creativity can help with that. And through your creativity, you can do crazy things. Like during lockdown, I made websites for my mum's gallery so that they could have the exhibition online, and I made my own exhibition online as well. Um, and I attempted to start my own magazine, but that's not really it's not really up yet.
I mean, that's still a good thing. I think much like what I did as well was similar. I just spent my time during lockdown. I got myself, tried to work as much as I could. I plugged myself into just like the streaming aspect, looking at what YouTube is like, and just for me, joining a community board.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a, it's anything that it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're in a lockdown doesn't mean that oh you just stop everything and just have that breakdown.
yeah, yeah.
Just
No, that's
because
really unhealthy. You have to.
it's very
Humans
risky.
are made to work. We have like this weird mindset. We like doing work. Like even though most people don't really like their Monday to Friday, like the minute you don't have that, you go, oh, well, now what do I do with my time? And yeah, I think of people the minute they don't have a job, they realize how much time there actually is during a day, and they hate it.
Yeah, I think yeah, no one we never really want to feel that
Yeah,
lazy.
yeah, definitely. Like, it's nice to feel productive, and then, like, you've earned your lazy days on the weekend.
Last question as well. How do you because this is we're entering a new year. Well, school year and stuff.
Yeah.
How do you see, you know, what's what advice would you give for uni students, especially now because this, like you said, it's unpredictable. Just winging it.
Yeah.
Like every we're I think the whole all of the UK, I think the whole world is now looking at everything from like a day by day basis now on how to just not fall apart.
It's hard to give advice when I'm also living through this the same time as they are. It's not like I've lived 50 years worth of lockdowns. But I think the advice I would give to people is to just like try to stay calm and try to keep carrying on. But like I think it's just so important for students to know that if you feel overwhelmed, that is okay. And if you want to talk to someone, you should. And it's always good to just reach out to someone else who you might not have talked to in a while and just say, hey, do you want a socially distanced meetup? Or, you know, yeah, I think students now, especially freshers, they're in new cities that they don't know and they don't know anyone and they're on a new course learning new things. Like it's a whole combination of everything. But now they're not necessarily getting to know their course mates and develop friendships. So like to that I would say try and join a society or a group where you can meet online or start playing games online where like you can develop a community that's safe and enjoyable for you and where like a place where you can have your similar interests and talk for hours like and that's I think like joining a society is honestly one of the best things you can do at university. I mean, I don't think it's
Yeah.
for everyone, but it's if you struggle at making friendships um like lasting friendships, it's always nice to go to a group that has similar interests. I think that's where you always find like the strongest community spirit. And if you're like a Christian fresher in Leeds, then try and start joining online services of the churches in Leeds because at one point you'll be allowed to go back. So it's good to get an idea of what those churches are actually like in person. So try and have a look at these churches when they do their online services. See if you like it. If you don't, then try a different church. But I would also say that if you're looking for a church this term, don't spend an eternity trying to find it. Don't have a new church every week because you'll end up like 12 weeks in and you still wouldn't have found your church. So my advice is that if you like a church, stay. If you try and like if you find friends, stay. Like there is because otherwise, yeah, like you just spend so much time and you basically end up feeling twice as lost as you did before because now you've made 3 times as many connections, but none of them are strong enough to hold you down.
And for those who might be in LAU and wanted to say join the Christian Union, where can they find you?
Well, they can find us on our Instagram page, which is just called LAU Christian Union. You can find us on Instagram by just typing that in. And the same with Facebook. Like you can find us on Facebook as well at Leeds Arts University Christian Union. And it should be a little white circle with black writing around the edge with an orange cross in the middle.
Good then. Thank you so much, Celeste.
Thank you for having me.
See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye!